What is going on? What is going on? Judd Burdon here, president of Asphalt Kingdom. I am super stoked to be here with you today. In this live event, we're going to be sharing some incredible stories and, of course, providing you with the seven-figure asphalt maintenance success blueprint. Literally the things that you're going to need to know in order to build, grow, and scale your very own pavement asset management business. Whether you're interested in getting into the industry or whether you're looking at scaling and growing your existing business, you're going to want to watch this one all the way through to the end. We've got some special giveaways as well that we're going to be giving away at the end of this session that we're going to be doing here. And I've got a special guest who's joining us today where you're going to hear a story about a guy who actually has built and successfully sold a seven-figure business in the pavement industry and certainly knows what it takes to start from small, grow to big, and then now is teaching other people how to do the same thing. Over here at Asphalt Kingdom, we've got one mission, and that's to be a lighthouse. I'm tattooed with it right here on my forearm, and we are a lighthouse to provide you with the insights and the guidance you need to be able to make some really great decisions on the go forward and providing you with the freedom that you're looking for in your life. So as we bring on our special guest today here on the seven-figure asphalt maintenance business blueprint freestyle jam, just be prepared. Make sure you have a pen and paper or your phone out with the ability to mark down some notes, because I can guarantee one thing: you're going to have some golden nuggets that are going to be shared with you today and will provide you with some great steps forward. But with no further ado, I'd love to introduce you to a good friend of mine, business owner, entrepreneur, seven-figure business man himself, starting from small, growing to big. His name is Dylan McCann. Welcome. What's up, my man? Dylan, welcome to the Freestyle Jam right here on our Asphalt Kingdom channels, buddy. I'm excited to be here with you, bud.
Hey, Judd. Thanks for having me on.
Excited to be here. I see a lot of cool balls that are rocking in the background there. That great background.
Kind of like running a business, got a lot of balls up in the air, right?
100%. It's cool when you can start to get those organized and in the right place, and you can have team members actually helping you with those too. It's incredible the things you're able to actually achieve when you start organizing that. So I'm looking forward to carving into this, man, with you. Thank you for taking the precious time out of your day to be here with us and to pay it forward to everyone watching here today. I know that there's going to be people on here today that are just planning on starting out a business for the very first time. And then, of course, there are people who are already in the business that are looking to grow and scale their business. Might be in year one, might be in year 10, they might be 2 decades in, but the goal here is to share valuable information throughout. So I appreciate you taking the time, brother.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to help and happy to share. And, I'm here as a resource for really anybody that needs it. I mean, this business, any business, is always a little bit easier with help and some friends and some people to bounce ideas off of, right?
100%. We often say in business, like being in business alone is lonely.
Very much so.
Really lonely versus actually having a whole team and community that's with you. And cool. Well, what's about your story, Dylan?
Sure. Sorry, might have a bad connection there, but I think I caught my story, and kind of what got me involved was I've been an entrepreneur really since I was 18, and started in the student painting business as a university student, and sort of transitioned that into striping, and then striping became asphalt maintenance, and I've got some experience in the sort of commercial fleet washing or pressure washing business on the industrial side, and from there, sort of was able to sell a couple of businesses and sort of step into this sort of new level of life where I'm traveling and I'm coaching and mentoring, sort of other entrepreneurs. I think we lost Judd. Are you back there?
I sure am. It's interesting. We're on a streaming platform. I got completely booted right out. So maybe you're lighting this up and heating it up actually faster than what the system wanted. But yeah, I was carving into. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your story, Dylan. Take us back in time to kind of your earlier days in business, and tell us what that was, what that journey looked like.
Sure. Yeah, one Canadian kid, entrepreneurial parents. So kind of always knew that that was probably the route that I was going to take. And, I think my first business was actually a hockey camp. Like, you don't think you can get any more Canadian than that. 18 university student, got involved in the student painting game. And, that was kind of the first real business where you're, finding your own work, quoting your own work, finding your own people, training your own people, doing your own jobs, collecting all the cash, doing all the taxes, doing everything behind the scenes, and really just having responsibility for the first time in your life. And then from there, sort of transitioned into the striping business. In the striping business, that grew and became kind of full blown asphalt maintenance, and kind of the rest is history. So, I guess been involved in three or four businesses up to this point at an ownership level, and successfully exited three of them. So it's been a wild ride. It's been a crazy decade.
That is incredible, man. And so let me ask you, because I know we often have these conversations behind the scenes, and then of course on our live round tables and different events that we host. But asphalt's kind of everywhere. But of course, I want to ask you the special question, which is, why did you choose asphalt maintenance as an actual business to start with?
To be honest with you, it was kind of luck. I was involved with the student painting. A friend of mine who I had met in my first year had kind of transitioned out, and he was running a striping business. And he was in Calgary, I was in Edmonton, and he's like, "Hey, let's start this thing. Do you want to open an office up there for me?" And so I got involved in the striping business, and I had a lot of experience with paint. I had a lot of experience with sprayers, and realistically, striping was just kind of repurposing a lot of those skills. And the big difference was that we were now obviously going after commercial as opposed to residential and commercial. And so got into the striping business, realized pretty quickly that, okay, striping, crack filling, seal coating, pothole repair, those all kind of fit together. And then from there, it was like, okay, there's a lot of asphalt. Okay, there's a lot of parking lots. Okay, there's a big market here. And then it was just about how do we capture as much of that market as possible, and sort of kept on rolling with it from there. And it just resulted in a lot of year over year success and a lot of crazy growth, and not without scars, but definitely happy to get to the other side. And it was, it's been the most rewarding experience of my life for sure. I can't hear you, Judd.
How's that? Is that working
That's
better?
that's better. I can hear you now.
Cool. So a question for you, which I think is really important. And, in the last 2 decades, we've been around, Asphalt Kingdom's been around for 21 years. And so we often are speaking with people who are just starting in the industry. And their question to us is this rocket science? Like, do I actually need to know the granular details of everything when I'm getting involved with this business? Like, is this heart surgery? And so tell us a little bit about what it was like in your early days setting up the business, and what you really needed to know in order to get the business started.
Sure. I guess in very short, no, it's not rocket science. It's very much just about dedication and having a plan. I think really any business kind of boils down to, you have to know your target, you have to know how you're going to acquire them, and then you have to know how you're going to fulfill that. So for me, in a targeting sense, again, I started in striping. Not a lot of homeowners that have parking lots to paint or any lines to paint. So we were almost exclusively commercial. So it started out where we were looking at, okay, who has parking lots, starting with the big dogs. So shopping malls, big sort of box stores, your Home Depots, your Walmarts, and then kind of sifting our way down through to the smaller parking lots. And then it was, okay, so how are we going to acquire them? And so when it was like, how are we going to acquire them? It was like, okay, well, we need to be competitive in pricing. So we did some research and figured out, okay, well, what does something usually go for? And then it was working backwards to find, how much labor, how much material are we going to use? What can we charge in terms of a margin? A lot of, sort of backwards engineering things. But, if I knew what I knew now in terms of, looking online, there's so many resources for how to price a parking lot, how to price a steel coating job, how much equipment costs. There's so much more information out there in this digital age. But the last thing would just be fulfillment, would be, how are you going to get it done? Are you going to do it at night? And just kind of having a full, well-rounded plan for how you're going to do everything. I mean, it just makes it a lot easier to sort of fulfill your promises at that point.
I think it's so true, brother. Like that to me is such an important part of moving into the next part, which to me is like building a business isn't always cupcakes and butterflies either, right? Like there's some challenges that you are going to face when you're first starting out in the business. And I think having access to the resources and the tools, I know if I go back to when I first started in the industry 25 years ago, the internet almost didn't exist back then. and so you were kind of winging it, right? That was back in the days of fax blasting.
Yeah.
and so I think having the resources and the tools makes things a lot easier today. However, there's the connection of other people also getting access to the same information. And so the question really I have for you is, what are some of the key challenges that you faced in your early days that you think that, people on here watching right now might be able to jot down as a note that we can help provide a solution to?
Sure. I think the biggest problem that most contractors face, especially early, is, you almost have to lose money once to figure out the pricing. But I think, I've been on your guys' website and it's like, you guys have cost calculators for everything. So, obviously be willing to learn from your mistakes is huge. On kind of the sales and marketing front, we always used to talk about it as like the I've got a guy conundrum of, especially when you're new and nobody knows who you are, you're reaching out, you're like, hey, I can do XYZ, I can seal coat, I can stripe, I can crack fill, I can fix your potholes. They're like, yeah, but I got a guy. One thing that just plagues this industry is people not answering their phone. And you especially here. Yeah, exactly. Right. So like you would be shocked how much business you can get simply by answering the phone. I think it was my second year in business that my phone was just blowing up so much that I was like, I just like don't have enough time to take all of my phone calls. So like the highest impact investment I probably ever made in my business in terms of ROI was just hiring a call center to make sure that I never missed a call, and everybody on my team was hooked up to it, so we never missed a call. So whenever somebody called through, it was like, don't leave me a voicemail. I just honestly didn't have time to do it. It was like it just got connected to a live agent. I got an email with all the details, knew who called, reached right back out. And the amount of business that we secured that way was crazy. But I'd say answer the phone, be willing to learn and learn from your mistakes, and just make sure that you know how to handle the I've got a guy sort of conundrum. And the answer there is just keep trying, right? Eventually that guy's not going to answer his phone and you're going to get an opportunity, and then the ball's in your court to kind of knock it out of the park. So
I mean, standing out from your competition is truly the important thing, right? Like a lot of people think that standing out from your competition is exclusively relating to the quality of your application, but it's not. It's legitimately standing out from your competition from the initial experience, creating a remarkable experience, so to speak, right through to actually delivering and following up and creating that lifetime value. And I think that really ties into what we do at Asphalt Kingdom and the mindset around building. See, most people think, hey, I'm an asphalt maintenance or an asphalt repair company. And the answer is no, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually a marketing and sales company that provides pavement asset management services committed to keeping property owners' pavements safe, long lasting, and looking great. And if you go into that mindset first and foremost of really doing a great job with the marketing, providing that exceptional marketing experience, providing the sales experience with the specialized 5-step close process that we teach at Asphalt Kingdom through our coaching programs, like that to me is what you want to focus on first, because a lot of people do it backwards, man, as you know, where they buy equipment and then they try to figure all the shit out afterwards. And the reality of it is, it's hard to grow like that. So can you tell us a little bit about what it looked like from a processes and systems perspective with your business and how that changed the trajectory of your company?
Yeah, for sure. I think to just double back on something you said there, like, you're kind of building a personal brand. There's a lot of people that are doing the services, not a lot of people that are doing it well. So our kind of personal brand was very much about almost having a white collar approach to it. In the commercial world, you're really dealing with white collar people. So learning to speak their language was always a big thing. So for us, step one was just find as many targets as possible and then getting them enrolled in a number of different ways to kind of see our brand. Something we had a lot of success with early, and I know it still works because there's almost so much noise online, is physical mail outs. We did physical mail and then following up, and you'd be surprised the open rate on physical mail is actually really, really high. So we would do a professional sales letter. As we kind of got later on in the business, we were doing like a professional VSL, and then just really knowing when certain services were needed and how to kind of follow up from them at that point. So, we knew that early in the season, the first services were parking lot sweeping and line painting. So, we had a timeline for when we were going live with our marketing for that. That rolled right into seal coating and crack filling. We were doing a lot of warehouse work. We were doing a lot of pothole repair. So we sort of had timelines for when all of these campaigns would go live. And the biggest thing was just that follow up. So, I think the most valuable sales experience or sales advice I ever received in my career was that, people buy from people they trust. And trust is made up of sort of 3 key things. It's character, competence, and common sense of purpose. Common sense of purpose is, do they need what you're selling? So do they have a parking lot? Do they have asphalt? Okay, well, at that point, it was pretty easy to see that this market was huge. Competence, can you do what you're saying? There's the actual physical service side, but then there's all the other promises you make along the way, like follow-up procedures and billing and all these little things that are just critical to running a business, and then there was the character aspect, and that was, do they like you? So I think in my situation, from a character perspective, we just focused on having like a white collar approach. Like we did a ton of coffee meetings with clients who weren't even clients, but turned into clients. We did a ton of meetings with vendors, where we were talking to other line painters, other sweepers, other asphalt guys, because we always wanted to be able to, if we couldn't do the job, connect them with somebody that would, because that would sort of keep them coming back. I think the one funny thing we always used to do is we used to do Christmas baskets. So like the clients that like we were having trouble procuring, we would send like a massive Christmas basket and be like, looking forward to tender season. And it was crazy by like year 2. They were like, you guys sent us that massive basket. We've never even worked with you. And we're like, yeah, but like, we want to work with you, and this is what we're like to work with. And so that kind of I think at least early, that was a big part of the sort of aggressive growth numbers, was just having a personal brand that I think people were identifying with.
I love that, man. We've got some audience questions that are coming in that I'd like to bring up, Dylan. We've got one from Alex over there. Do you think that it's easier or harder to succeed now than compared to when you started?
I think it's just a little bit different. I don't think it's necessarily easier or harder. I think in some regards you have way more access to the market just with the way technologies come. You've got AI, which is going to help with sales, emails, and just the automation that you can do now has come so far from when I first started. I think really the only downside in today's world is just interest rates aren't great, and you do need a little bit of cash to get this going. Like in my situation, I started with 30 grand, went and got a working capital loan that kind of brought my total capital up to about 120K. And then from there, sort of built out. So the interest rate was a lot more reasonable back then. But other than that, I think if anything, it's easier than ever to get yourself out there in a market and put yourself in touch with these clients. So
great. And I think the other thing too is you only know what you know, right? Based upon what you've gone through in the past. And so the question I would say, or I guess to address that question also from my side, I would say, what are you doing to sharpen your sphere? Are you actually digging into the resources and tools? Like at Asphalt Kingdom, we have the AK Vault. We've got the whole resource library. We've got 20 years of experience of knowledge that's been poured out, a lot of free resources that are there. We've got premium as well, but the reality of it is, are you reinventing the wheel, or are you actually carving into what's available to you right now? It's like, you want to do some self-development. If you're not listening to audiobooks and reading books and you're not going out there and working on yourself physically, you can bet your boots you're going to be average, right?
yeah, do average things, get average results, right?
Bingo, exactly. We have another question that came in from doing business over here. What are some common misconceptions about the asphalt maintenance industry that you wish more people understood?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing in the asphalt maintenance industry is that people think it's saturated. The reality is that there's I think is it 25 billion in the States alone is asphalt. Like you think
Maintenance.
about
That's just maintenance.
Right. So I think I would get calls every June, every July, hey, my guy's been stringing me along for 2 months. The job's not done. Can you come and do it? So I would say the saturation is the biggest question I get. And I'm just like, do you know how many people are required to do $25 billion in work? And then when you realize that the majority of the industry is mom and pop shops that are like under 5 people, it's massive. And I mean, there's so much opportunity out there that it's really just a numbers game. I mean, the more people you reach, the more quotes you're going to do. The more quotes you do, the more work you're going to do, right? So
couldn't agree more. I can tell you, if you just go onto Google Earth right now and type in your address, and then just zoom out and look at the commercial and industrial and the developed city or town that's near you, and then tell me that there is not asphalt in that area, and you'll be lying. There's asphalt absolutely everywhere. It needs maintenance. It needs repairs. Otherwise, it becomes a liability risk, a tripping hazard for the property owner. And I'll tell you, I think this goes into a pretty cool one. Like when you were out prospecting, when you were out doing some infield sales and looking for opportunities for some commercial parking lots that were the average job sizes that could really move the needle for your revenue and that had great profit attached, what were some of your hunting tactics that you would go look for when you were hunting opportunities?
So I come from a winter market. So, it's important to understand that, half the year it was covered in snow, but we really just took a numbers approach to it. So for us, it was looking at every single parking lot, identifying the owner of that parking lot, and then sort of enriching that data to understand, okay, who's actually responsible for this? And then it was putting them into marketing sequences. Like the biggest investment I made early in the business was bringing on like a business development rep. I forget exactly what title I had for her, but her name was Wendy. And she just called all day, every day. And I was like, your only KPI is to put me in front of people. later on in the business, I probably would have got a little bit more direct with what I needed. But early on in the business, it was like, just put me in front of people. I know I can sell myself. I can sell this personal brand. And so a lot of it was just walking through parking lots and showing people what we can do, and doing a lot of education. A lot of, sort of your clients, they don't actually understand a lot about asphalt. They just know that it's broken, or, it looks like this. I don't like how it looks. So, really kind of taking a step back and taking an education approach to, why do we crack fill? In my market, it was like, we have plus 30 and minus 30 Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. You'll have to help me out there. But, it was, if we crack fill, we keep the water and the moisture out of the base. Once the base goes, the asphalt on top goes. You're only as good as what's underneath. And that kind of applied to paint, that applied to crack filling, that applied to sealant, it applied to epoxy, it applied to really everything in the industry. So we took a really big education approach to it, and, kind of took the high road. And people are like, well, I've got a guy. And it's like, okay, like, no problem. Like, we're here if he ever drops the ball. And, let's talk about, why we're doing what we're doing. And, at worst, you should be asking your guy if he's doing these things for your parking lot and extending sort of the lifetime value of your asset, because, it's a huge asset. Like, when you look at what it costs to pave a box store, or even pave a small parking lot, it's big money. And if you're not going to maintain it, I think from the Pacer analysis, it's like, if you don't maintain it at all, you lose more than half the lifespan of the asphalt.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is awesome, man. So again, I appreciate you taking the time here. This is fantastic. And we've got questions pouring in right now. So let's go ahead and keep answering these questions, if that's cool with you, Dylan.
Yeah,
I know that you just have a wealth of knowledge, and you've got a decade of experience in the pavement industry, right? In the asphalt industry. And then, of course, you've got your entrepreneurial experience as well with building other businesses. And so, everyone, again, have your pens out, have your notepads out. Again, on here with Dylan McCann, who has built a 7-figure business, and he is here to help answer questions and provide you with some yellow brick roads on the road on the forward here. We've got a question that has come in from John from Palladium Pavement. What was the message in your Christmas basket to the customer that you were actually chasing?
It was always personalized, and it was always handwritten. And it was usually some sort of drawback on any sort of conversation that we had. We actually, quite early in the process, started using HubSpot as our CRM. So I had all of these notes from Wendy about how the conversations went. So, like, in one situation, I remember her name was Hilda, and when Wendy had left some notes, she had left a note that, she's always running the kids to soccer or hockey practice. So I remember with her, I was like, Merry Christmas, hope the kids win their hockey tournaments, type of thing. We'll reach out in the spring and look forward to doing some work with you. So for us, personalization was huge. There was a little bit of a life hack to it, in terms of, you could only do that if you had the notes, and if you had the sort of staff that was bought in at that level. And Wendy was spectacular at leaving detailed notes. So she was a really big part of our early success, because it just allowed me to leverage information that, no other contractor was going to have. Right.
I love that, man. And it's like, again, sharpening the spear, right? Like, as Keith Cunningham says, it's like, to me, this is, what are we doing to differentiate from the average to really stand out? Because let's face it, asphalt being everywhere, if you do this at a world-class level, you're going to grab significant market share and build a lot of enterprise value. And, knowing how to do that right out of the gate is not easy. It's hard. But if you're able to actually connect with people who have been there and done that, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we end up in a spot that you don't have that massive steep learning curve, but instead you have that kind of that speed lane to get you to the next checkpoint much faster. Please, everyone, keep your questions coming in. We're going to do our very best to answer them, and we're going to keep carving through this. We've got another question, Dylan, that has come in from Huan. It says, hi, Dylan. what were your most effective strategies for acquiring new customers and building a loyal client base? I know you did touch on that just a little bit ago, but why don't we try to get a clear understanding of some top strategies that were used to acquire other than the calling?
Sure. I think it's just about attacking multiple avenues. In marketing in general, people don't usually care until they've, seen your brand or heard from you multiple times. It's probably 10 plus times. So just hitting them on as many avenues as possible. So, making sure that your, Google business is set up so that you're getting reviews so that people know where to find you. You've got a professional website, so you look professional. Doing follow-ups on any sort of quotes, circling back, always kind of, accomplishing the tasks that you said you were going to do, even if they don't go with you. Just, hey, how did this look? Getting follow-up and feedback, running paid ads, running organic, doing direct reach outs, direct mail. The nice thing for us was, we did do a lot of that direct mail, and that basically turned a cold client into a warm client. So that process was, cold mail, like physical mail. We used to stamp it with priority mail or urgent, and it would be in like an off-white color envelope. Like it
Twist
looked.
the stamp, twist the
Yeah,
stamp a little bit.
yeah. It looked different, right? So people were opening it, and then we were following up with phone calls. If we weren't getting through on the phone, we were following up in email. Very similar to honestly, Asphalt Kingdom. If I ever reached out, it was like there was 15 touch points after, even if I wasn't buying anything. It was like, all right, like who's my first call if I need something now, right? Like the guy
Right.
that's top of mind. So we just spent a lot of time trying to stay top of mind with our customers and prospects, so that when they did need something, we were kind of that first call.
I love that, man. I also have a second question that has come in from a Deacon Moore. Welcome. Thank you for your question. Great question. You mentioned not buying a bunch of equipment starting out. How do you all recommend starting up then? Oh my goodness, we spoke about this yesterday in depth, Dylan.
Yeah.
Man, this is, and I know that we have Palladium Pavement on here as well. Like Palladium Pavement has built a brokerage business, and they don't even own a shovel. And so maybe I think there's two different ways, right? There's the self-performance and then the brokerage up. Why don't we talk about that a little bit, what that looks like?
Sure. Well, I think, there's two kind of streams you can take into this business. You can either get involved on the ground level, do the work yourself, or there's a massive amount of this business that is just subcontracting and vendor management. Good example of this is, one of your streams in this business is new construction. New construction, for example, there's just these big bidding networks where projects go up for tender, you submit your price, and maybe you hear back later. But there's also a much shorter term version of that. And you see it with bigger asphalt contractors where, for example, they don't do line painting, they don't do crack filling, they're probably not doing seal coating. So they're contracting smaller contractors. You can kind of run that same business model and just be focused on the maintenance side of things. And really, you're just putting a markup on it. So the margin isn't as high, but there's still a very viable business there. You can also kind of look at it as a hybrid model. I think it's easier to look at it as a hybrid model in some of the more, winter or northern climates. You can't work some of the year, right? So, for example, one of the advantages I had early on in my business was, I was running a business for 3 months, basically as a broker model, and then lining up the equipment to be purchased for, say, April 1st, and knowing that I had a bunch of work in the pipeline already, and rolling in with booked jobs as opposed to, kind of what you mentioned earlier, Judd, that almost like build it and they will come model of buying equipment, being in the ditch for however much that costs, and then going out and trying to find work. I think the most effective strategy you can use for getting into this industry and being successful in it is, sweat equity. I don't want to say it's free because it's not free, but put your sweat equity in early and focus on sales and marketing and build up a bit of a book of business. And if something does need to be done urgently, just distribute that to a vendor. And to having a network, having friends in the industry, it makes it much easier to succeed, knowing that you're not alone. But building up that big book of business and then getting into the equipment side of it, because then you can actually forecast what your return on that investment is going to be. So
I love this. Sorry, I'm overcoming a cold here. So this right now, what we're speaking about to me is super, super exciting. And the reason why is the question about not buying a bunch of equipment starting out. How do you actually recommend that you start? I think you have to look in the mirror and you have to ask the question to yourself is, do I want to self-perform on my projects? Do I want to go out and do the work? Like actually execute on the crack sealing and the seal coating, patching, striping, etc. Or would I prefer to be just a marketing and sales company that's out there closing deals using the AK- system and brokering deals with the contractor network that exists within Asphalt Kingdom and out there in the markets for both Canada and the United States? And I would say that once you have that answer, like I want to be a marketing and sales company, or I want to be a self-performing company, I think once you have that answer, then there's a yellow brick road that you will follow to get to the land of Oz, so to speak, as the analogy. Just to be clear, no matter which path you choose, at Asphalt Kingdom, we give you the exact blueprint of what you need to be able to go down that yellow brick road to achieve the results. An example, Dylan, who you know through our connections, Jason Morales of M5 Paving in Colorado does not own a shovel, and he's bidding $1 million a week right now and has been awarded over $1 million since January of projects. And so to be clear, whether you own a shovel or you don't own a shovel, you can be successful in this industry. And so if you're wanting to explore that further, for anybody that's listening to this call right now, there's a QR code that's in your screen right now, and you can actually book a call with Dylan. He's gone out of his way to actually field calls and work with you on giving you that yellow brick road on the path forward. And Dylan, thank you for that. Appreciate it, man.
No
But like that to me is identifying where you are right now, where you want to go, and what does that yellow brick road look like that we're going to lay out with you, and then you're going to be held accountable to execute on it. Like that's, I don't know how you create more inevitable success than that, brother, like straight up.
I don't think you can, to be honest. I mean, it's, you kind of got that fork in the road at the beginning of your journey, but the journey gets you to the same place, right?
So a question for you that has come in from John Locke. This is a good one. I'm looking for a job and I need a job really bad. And we're gonna answer this quickly. So let's jump on that one, Dylan. What do you think?
Reach out to every asphalt maintenance company in your area, and if you're reliable and want to learn, they're all hiring.
John, go call those companies or go on some Facebook groups that exist where there's a bunch of those companies that are posting daily. I see that you're on Facebook right here. Why don't you go post that? Let's keep rocking. I've got Elgerio here. Elgerio, this is what I need. I'm about to start to launch and grow my seal coating and asphalt maintenance business, and I need these gems. Thank you. Like, I mean, that's not a question, but how cool is that, right?
Let's book a call.
Scan that QR code if you want to get that call in with Dylan, and that'll be a great path forward for you. All right, let's keep rocking around. Oh, we've got one more question from Palladian Pavement. What is your best source for education to learn more about the intricacies of the industry to educate your customers?
To be honest with you, I mean, a lot of what we did once we found Asphalt Kingdom was shared a lot of resources there. Judd's done a great job over the years of just having a ton of, very visual content, lots of videos and whatnot. So, I mean, a good example of that is they're like, well, how is crack filling done, or what does seal coating look like? Half the time we would just send an Asphalt Kingdom video. But, as we kind of got more established, I was lucky enough to have a good friend that had a drone company. And so we brought him out just to shoot a bunch of projects for us. And then we would send those videos to customers and say, like, this is what it looks like here. And just having a visual, I think, makes a huge difference for the customer.
I love that. As you can see, QR codes are getting scanned nonstop right now, so you're going to be busy on the phone. But I would be too. If I was looking at getting involved or scaling my business, I'd be scanning that too, man. Listen, there's nothing better than surrounding yourself with people who have been there and done that and can give you that path forward. Okay, so question for you, because I know this is a really important one. There are companies that they start their business or they're already in the business and that they truly think that revenue is the important thing. And there's this saying that often goes like this: revenue is vanity, cash is king. And so can you tell us a little bit about what that was like as you were building your business and the importance of truly understanding and managing your cash flow in the early years of your company?
Sure. Yeah, like revenue is sanity. Sorry, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, right? Or all smoke, no fire is another one that we would say, where the fire is the profit. I think one of the things to really understand as you're scaling aggressively, and I mean, 70 to 100+% a year, is that growth is expensive. And so you need to be prepared to sort of reinvest in the business to keep it growing. And to add to that, you need to understand your numbers and where you're making money and what projects you're making money on. And that really comes from kind of a standard operating procedures and reporting. So early on, for us, it was like WhatsApp and pictures and stuff like that. And then it moved into more survey and sort of having a field level software operational system to track, how much labor is used on a project, how much product was used, whether that's paint, sealant, crack fill. Once we had those numbers, we knew if we were making money, and if we weren't making money, it was like investigation time. Why aren't we making money? And sometimes like it just got to that point where like, okay, like that seal coating job, like under 500 square feet, we can't be competitive there. That's not our market. And so we just stopped chasing those, or we implemented like a minimum job size that we wouldn't win those very often. If we did win them, it was still okay. But having an understanding of where you're making money, why you're making money on those jobs, and then targeting more of those jobs to maximize your gross margin, because the more gross margin you had, the more you could put into growth. On a higher level, I would say that's more like managerial style. On a higher level, like a strategic level, it was about, okay, where are our targets? What do we want to expand in terms of our service offering, or where do we want to focus more of our time? And understanding, okay, how much do we need to invest in those areas, whether that's sort of salespeople, marketing people, maybe it's operations people, but understanding where we needed to make the investments strategically to continue our growth.
I love that, man. I love that. And it's like, again, you don't know what you don't know. And that for me is such an important thing. Like, so let's face it, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not a financial guy whatsoever. I'm great at working hard and doing marketing and sales and those kind of things, but I've never been a math guy. I've never been like a really detailed, methodical, analytical type guy. And so having the systems and people that actually can give me the guidance around that so that I can read the numbers properly, I think was a huge differentiator in helping us grow Asphalt Kingdom as well, right? And understanding your numbers is such a crucially important thing. It's important to understand them after, but it's even more important to understand them before, because there's nothing worse than going into a project and truly not understanding what your cost base is to be able to execute on that project, and to find out you spent a week of your life on a project that made you absolutely no money. That sucks.
Yeah, it's going in blind, right? And I think that goes to something we talked about earlier there about pricing and quoting jobs, and I think how that's an anxiety that a lot of contractors, just business owners in general, think about as they're getting into a business. And having that understanding of your costs going in, having that sort of expected profit margin, and then comparing that against actual after the job is complete to understand where you need to make changes in your sales and estimating process, because having that standardized is a massive part of growth. And I just say that because it's like when you bring on salespeople, they're not going to have the experience that you have, right, as the business owner. So you need to be able to break it down for them in sort of palatable chunks that they're going to be able to implement and help you scale business. So just thought I'd add that 2 cents.
I love that, man. And like we just dropped a link, by the way, in the chat here for Facebook and YouTube and other platforms we're streaming to. The AK Dash CRM trial is in there. Just to be clear, the AK Dash system, and you're familiar with it because I'm interested in some feedback on that, but there is a job costing module in there that allows you to actually input data before you go out and make the mistakes. And so you start to do this assumptive modeling, and then you're able to actually understand your actuals and what your variances are. So, having the optics of the at a glance dashboards, but also the job costing inside AK Dash is such a powerful module in there. But why don't you speak, because you were introduced to AK Dash recently, and just be straight with people watching about the platform and its developments and what you're thinking. It's thinking how it can help people grow and scale their business.
Your business in one place. For me, when I started out early, I mean, I remember a lot of spreadsheets with client lists, and then that led me into adding HubSpot as a CRM. But on the operational side, it was like everything was in WhatsApp, and then it was in Forms, and to really just have everything in one place, and to be able to run your business from one place. Just the lack of brain drain that you have from not having to flip through 25 different resources or 25 different pages to find the information that you need to make a decision. AK Dash just makes a lot of sense. I think for me, like as a guy that's scaled up to 7 figures in this industry, I think the most valuable part, like as a startup business owner, that AK Dash gives you is the professional proposals. It keeps your clients organized, but then you've got this professional proposal that nobody else is doing. This industry still has guys giving estimates on napkins, right? So to my point earlier about the personal brand being a little bit more white collar, running AK Dash, that you're giving white collar estimates. I remember giving an estimate, and it was kind of very similar to what AK Dash does. And I remember I was doing a seal coating estimate for a guy that worked for the company that we were quoting this big job for. And I had done like a video walkthrough because it was just using Vidyard or Loom to sort of explain the quote. I'm doing a quote for him on his driveway. I don't get that job, but he goes, I've never seen a proposal like that. We've never seen a proposal like that. We are impressed. And it was like, all right, no worries. We're not going to win the $2,000 driveway, but we're going to get the $185,000 logistics job, right? So
that is so awesome. I love that. And I think the thing I want to break to everyone here is, like, for everyone attending, by the way, I said there was going to be a giveaway at the end. And for those of you that have actually stuck it out, that are live with us right now, that are really interested in taking the next steps, there's 2 things that you can do. One is you can scan that QR code that's up in the top and book a call with Dylan. The second thing is, and my team doesn't know this yet, but if you reach out to Dylan about this, Dylan, I'm going to give you the ability to share out our $1,500 Make It a Biz pack, which includes our role practice videos that I've done, phone scripts, social media templates, seal coating proposal template, access to the AK Roundtable, and also a free training with Jeff on getting on AK Dash to show you under the hood and actually build your business. So I'm going to give that to you guys who are live right now. That's quite a giveaway.
That's only $1,500 in value.
Yeah, well, that's what we tagged. That's what we tagged on it, but it's pretty badass actually. It's on our Asphalt Kingdom website. It's called the Make It a Biz Success Pack. It's what we give to our clients who generally are investing $25,000 plus. We add that in as a business package. But for all of you that are attending for this live event, we're going to give that to you. So hopefully that can help you on your next steps on your journey and building and growing and scaling your business. Dylan, I have a question for you, man, because you built and exited a company, right? Your company. And so, like, what's on the horizon for you, man? Like, you're on the move. You're living the dream right now, bro.
Well, I lived the first, 30 odd years of my life in a frozen wasteland where it was hockey and skiing and, mosquito season, right? So, I'm just kind of jet setting. So looking for a new
Cool.
place to call home. So I've been hanging out in South America, hanging out in Mexico, lived in Buenos Aires for a while. And, the beauty of today's world, I think there was a question earlier about, is it easier or harder to make it now? I mean, there's so many more opportunities now, and the ability to work online is a game changer. So we just work with a couple of clients in terms of helping them with their business and just providing that network. Add to that, I mean, like when I was running my business, I was part of this program called Entrepreneurs Organization, and a lot of these people had nothing to do with asphalt maintenance. They didn't know anything about it, but just to be surrounded by other entrepreneurs and people that have kind of been in your shoes is huge. And I just do that for people now. So
I love that, man. It's like what a kind of cool dream, right? Build a company in the services business, exit it, and now really go after doing the next, moving on the next chapter of your life, traveling around and guiding and being that lighthouse to other people that are interested in building, growing, and scaling their businesses. That's a special thing, man. Special thing. I love to
it's
do
fun to
that
be
as
a
well.
it's fun to be a part of, right? I mean, like, when somebody gets that win, you're like, yeah, you had it coming. And sometimes they just need that positive reinforcement that they're doing the right things because, it's like, if you make 10 calls and quit, it's the 11th call that's going to convert, right?
I
So
love that. There's some more questions that have popped in, and I know we're coming up on the top of the hour here, but are you cool for a few more questions before we hop off?
I'm good for about 10 minutes. Yeah.
Great, fantastic. So there was a question which is what advice would you give somebody starting out in the industry, like where they are right now, if they're thinking about it? What would be the next steps that you would recommend they take?
Well, I kind of go back to sort of that target, acquire, fulfill sort of framework. First things first is who do you want to target? Do you want to target residential? Do you want to target commercial? And then it's, how are you going to acquire them? So, really diving into the resources of, knowing your product knowledge, knowing why you're doing what you're doing it, because that's going to really play into how you sort of sell a value proposition to whether that's a property owner or a homeowner. And then, understanding how to price something. So really it starts with that kind of that crossroads that we talked about a couple of minutes ago, Judd, where it's like, you're at a fork in the road. Are you going to be a broker or are you going to be a provider or are you going to be a hybrid? Because, if you're going to be a broker, it's really just about getting the sales and marketing going. So professional website, ad spend, SEO, and understanding the product and the material and how you're actually going to go out and sell this. And then there's kind of the hybrid model of to do everything that I just talked about in the broker model. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill up my schedule for a month before I pull the trigger on all of this equipment. Or there's, you've got equipment and you're looking to grow, and it's just a matter of sort of scaling up on the lead flow side of things and product, sort of your product knowledge side of things, just to understand, how to add as much value as possible for existing customers. Everybody that needs crack filling needs seal coating. If they're commercial and they need crack filling, they need seal coating. They also need line striping, and they've probably got potholes. So at that point, it's just about how do you maximize the basically revenue per conversation at that point and make sure that they're aware of everything that you do so that they're not calling somebody else to do things you can do, right?
I think that is such great advice. And as I'm noodling on this, I strongly would recommend that you and I potentially host a private group meeting around the pavement brokerage business. So essentially becoming a marketing and sales powerhouse that uses a subcontractor network to execute on projects. But I'm thinking about that Google slide deck that I had put together for the VSL
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
And like we could literally host a live event for a limited number of people where we can actually go through that and speak about what it looks like to shape a business as a marketing and sales powerhouse in an industry that's underserved from professional marketing and sales standpoint. Would you be down to do something like that with me, brother?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, I always laugh because, like when we reconnected a few months ago, it was like, you're telling me about this broker model, and I'm like, oh, I wish I knew about that a decade ago.
Right. And so to me, that's something important. What if you want to be a part of that private group, I think we'll probably limit that to about 10 people just to keep it very intimate. If you scan that QR code that's in the top of your screen to get with Dylan, we'll compile a group of 10 people to literally show you the blueprint and formula that you need to follow in order to build a pavement super brokerage business without even needing a shovel. So if that's of interest to you, scan that QR code. We'll get you on a list, and then Dylan, you and I can jam on getting a date signed up here in the near future, and we can rock and roll on that. Do like a good hour session and training people what that step-by-step foolproof process looks like.
Yeah, 100%. I'm here to help, honestly. So
I love that. I love that. Cool. All right. We've got one more question. One more question. If there's one thing that you'd like to see change in this industry, what would that be?
answer the damn phone. The industry is so big and so many guys don't answer the phone. Like whether it's my vendors, whether it's my clients, it's just like answer the damn phone. There's so much productivity that is lost to people just not answering the phone. But you can kind of target that and use that as your kind of distinct competitive advantage in this industry because so many people don't answer the phone.
It's so true, man. It's so true. And it's time that people start doing that, and a few more things that I know that we can add to that puzzle to help people actually achieve success. I'm just going to share the screen just quickly here. This is the VSL that I was speaking about that I was working on, but now it can actually turn into it. I'm just going to scan it quick just to give a quick teaser. Let me know when you can see my screen here.
Yeah, I got you now.
We're going to literally take you through the details of what you need to look at this, all this AK Vault stuff, all the templates, all the tools, all the resources, the 5-step close process, literally multiple 7-figure businesses being created. I mean, that's to me, the exciting thing is that we have been there, we have done that, and now we desire to teach people how to do that. So that's super exciting, man. I'm glad we did that on the spot, Dylan. That's kind of the way we jam sometimes,
Yeah. Just sometimes it just flows, right?
Cool. Well, listen, any other pieces of advice that you want to share as a wrap up here before we jump off?
I wrote a few things down in prep for the call, and I'll just maybe share those. And I've got it like starred 5 times on my note page. Answer the damn phone. Systemize. So everything is easier, especially growth, if you're systemized in terms of you've got standard operating procedures for everything. That means how do you fill a crack? How do you paint a line? How do you talk to a client? How does your follow-up procedure work? The more systemized you can be, the better set up you are for growth. Last thing is just like know what your time is worth. I think something that I just see business owners across all industries kind of struggle with this, especially when they're kind of new to entrepreneurship, is like, when do I add people, or like when do I step away from something? You really have to have kind of a time value of money on your time and have to understand what you do best in the business. So the last thing I'd share for my business was just, I was getting bogged down in operations, and, it was that pivot point where it's like, okay, am I going to dive into operations, or am I just going to keep powering through with business development and sales? And that was when I brought on an operations manager and probably freed up 25 hours a week in my time, that then went right back into sort of business development and sales and marketing and just driving that side of the business. And that's what got us to the 7-figure mark. And, when I exited, it was at that point where it's like, okay, there's now too much sales going on for just me to handle. And that's when we brought in salespeople. So having that understanding of where your time is most valuable and how much you're leaving on the table in terms of opportunity cost by not expanding your team, I think that's the last major nugget of advice I can kind of provide on the 7-figure business model.
I love that, man. I love that. And just to be clear, everyone, you don't need to know it all like the back of your hand in this very moment, but know that you've taken a step forward here today and joining both Dylan and I here with you with precious moments of your life and taking that peg that you put forward on the board. And it's one step at a time. Eating an elephant's tough, you know, and so know that we're here for you, the Asphalt Kingdom community, the whole team. And go ahead, if you're wanting to book that call with Dylan, you can click that QR code right up in the top and you can book a call with Dylan. We've also put the hyperlinks that are in the comments to be able to access Dylan and booking a discovery call with him as well. We're really, really looking forward to working with everybody on the go forward. You know, at the end of the day, we're here for a true reason, and that's to live life, I think, to its fullest and to have fun doing it, right? Like, that's the key. Have fun. Yeah.
100%.
Dylan, appreciate all your time, man. Looking forward to this future jam on that, on the brokerage side of the business and creating that custom group. That's going to be badass. Looking forward to that. And so again, click that QR code. We'll also be in touch for some invites to that event. We're going to limit it to 10 people. Thanks, Dylan.
Perfect. Really appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to hopping on that event there.
Looking forward to it as well, man. Take care, everyone. Have a beautiful day. Make it super successful.